Welcome to our video on contracts. In this video, we will go over creating contract templates, adding a contract to a grant, and the approval and signature process on the contract. A contract is a grant subcomponent. In order to use this subcomponent, there are certain items you have to set up. So we're going to go over the setup of the funding opportunity first. Log in with your internal user ID and password, and navigate to your funding opportunity. There are two items in the funding opportunity that we need to set up. First is on the associated forms bar at the top. We need to ensure that we have set up the module and grant tracking. So if you will be utilizing contracts, make sure it's been added to the grant tab and that the contract text has been added to the contract tab. So those are your associated forms bar tasks. The other item is in the funding opportunity general information. Here is where you will set the approval and signature rules for the contract. In this example, we have set up one approval level. You can have up to 5. They all need to be internal staff. The signature rules, we are going to use 2 signatures today. You can have up to 5. And they can be internal or external users. Please keep in mind that your people need to be set up for this access. You do need to assign them the role that gives them the access to approve and sign in order for them to approve or sign the contract. Now that our setup portion is complete, let's move on to creating the contract template. You will go to the Utilities menu and click on Contract Templates. Up at the top, you can click Add to add a brand new template. Or if you go back to the original screen, you can copy an existing template, and the screen will look the same either way. Here, we were going to add the actual contract static verbiage. So this is not going to be grant-specific language yet. This is your static verbiage for your contract. You can use the formatting icons up at the top and insert images and tables and anything that you need to make your contract set up. You can also expand it to make it larger if you have a lot of text that you need to enter. Be sure that you minimize it again to save your changes. Notice down at the bottom, there are substitutions. If you add these substitutions by copying them and pasting them into your contract, once we pull this contract into a grant, then that will automatically populate the grant-specific language for each grant. So again, the template is the substitutions and the static verbiage. Once you have this all set up, it's time to pull it into a grant and actually create the real contract for that grant. Now let's head into grant tracking and pull in this contract template. We're going to locate our grant. This grant that we're using is in awarded status. Now keep in mind, if you are having your external users sign the contract, the majority of the time, the system is set up to where the grantee does not have access to their grant and awarded status. There is a system setting that you can request that would allow grantee access to the grant and awarded status, but that is a global system admin change that would need to be requested, and it would impact every program area in the system. Most of the time, you'll leave the grant and awarded status, the grantee won't have access to it, and if you are having them use the WebGrants signature process on the contract, you could just simply change the grant to underway status, and that would allow them to sign the contract. That is the step that we are going to take today. So this grant is an awarded status, and the grantee does not have access to it at this point. We have their approved budget amount, it's accurate, set up. We have project start and end dates, and all of these items are set to pull into the contract template because of those substitutions that were added in the template. Make sure if you are testing your template that you do have a good test grant to utilize, that you have the actual data in the budgets and the actual start and end dates and your general information on your grant is set up appropriately. So we're going to go into the contract module now. We're going to add the contract. If you have multiple templates, make sure you're selecting the template that you need for this particular grant. Give it a title and the start and end date. Now that you've completed the general information, you will see the contract text. When you click on the contract text, it will pull in the template that you selected. And you can see all those abbreviated items that we added as substitutions have now entered the data for this specific grant. For example, the budget amount is showing, the date, the grantee contact, so it is now specific to this grant. You can also enter in grantee specific language by editing up at the top and entering in text. This does not impact the actual template that you created. Be sure you save your changes. If at some point while you're in editing status and working on this contract, if you would decide to go update the template in utilities, be sure that you refresh the template and pull in the most current version of the template. If everything looks great and you're ready to go through the approval process, make sure you mark it as complete and submit it in. Now that our contract has been submitted, the internal user that subscribed to the alert will be alerted that this contract is ready to go through an approval process. The first level of approval will log into the system. It will show on their dashboard, where they can also do a contract search and grant tracking. Up at the top, you can do a contract search. You can search by status, you can search by program area or funding opportunity, and even by the approval level needed. For example, if you are the first level of approval, you can come in and do a search and say, show me all the contracts with no approval levels. If you are the second level of approval, you would come and do a contract search and say, give me all contracts that have already been approved at level 1. So you'll do your search filter, click search. There's our contract. It's now in submitted status and ready to go through the approval process. If you have access to approve at this level, you will see the approval button and this next screen. Because we set our funding opportunity up for one level of approval, I do not have a notify next. If you have more than one level of approval, you will have a drop-down box show for notify next, and it will show all the people with your program area access and the next level of approval. And you will simply click on that person's name so they will be alerted to notify for the next level. You will continue that process until all levels have completed their approval. So I'm here at level 1. I'm going to mark it as approved and enter any comments. And because I am the only level of approval, the final level of approval, when I click save, it will change to approved status. If you had several levels, it will require all levels to complete their approval before it will change to approved. You can see that it is tracking the document approval, who did it, what time, and the day. The other thing to note here is there is a WebGrants signature process, but there's also printing capabilities. So when you're viewing the contract and see this information up at the top, that's the header. So there are a lot of options in your print. If you need ink on paper signatures, the wet signature process, if you do need to print your contract for an actual wet signature and you are not utilizing the WebGrants signature process, you will use the print to PDF without header, so it does not show the header information at the top. Then you will simply print off your contract or print it to PDF, obtain those signatures the way you currently do it now, and then once it's all signed, you can upload it in a grant attachment form. If you are using the WebGrants electronic signature process, you will go to signatures, and again, the person signing must have access to sign at this level. The system will not only track the person that is logged in, but it will have them type in their name and date as well. So I am coming in as an internal user and signing it as the first level. I'm going to type in my name and the date, enter any comments, and the important portion here is the notify next. If you are going to have an external user sign the contract, they do need to be level 2, 3, 4, or 5, because an internal user at least has to be first so that that external user can be notified. And again, make sure at this point, if you're having your external user sign the contract, that they have access to their grant. So it needs to be an underway status. So we're going to go ahead and show you an external user signing their contract. Their view of it looks different. So we're going to go ahead and notify that person. I want you to note that the contract, even though it has been signed at one level, it is still in approved status. So next, we're going to log in as the grantee that has now received that email alert, and they're going to come in and sign at level 2. And remember, I set the funding opportunity up for 2 signatures, so this will be the final signature. The grantee will locate their grant, go down to contracts, click on the contract, and notice right away that they do not have all the buttons that the internal user had. They have the view of the contract as well. Once they have read over the contract and they are ready to sign, they will click the signature button. Their view here looks the same when they sign, so the system will expect them to type in their name and date and enter any comments. This is the last level, so they don't have a notify next. Once you have gone through all of your approvals and all of your signatures, the contract will then be in executed status. That is the end of our contract training. Thank you for watching.